Hi, hello, welcome to another weekend video. I have a lot of books to talk about this weekend because I am going to show you generally what my idea is to complete the PopSugar reading challenge for 2021. So let's talk about some books. This whole bookcase is my TBR shelf. These are like adult books and nonfiction and then YA stuff, especially things that I want to bring to my classroom. I have left this specific cubby for PopSugar Reading Challenge books that I want to read this year. So I've taken them all out and I've moved them down here. Usually this shelf is specifically for books that I've finished, especially during the month, but it's also been so far throughout the year because I'm planning on some quarterly reviews. So I'm going to show you everything that I have available with some very brief summaries. Otherwise, this video will be an hour and I don't think you want to listen to me talk for an entire hour. So let's get going. To start, I'm going to talk about the prompts that we're saving specifically for the Teachergram takeover because there's 12 of them. And I obviously don't know all of them yet because everybody votes on them. So I'll just kind of share the prompts for those. In January, we completed prompt number 27, which is a book about do-overs or fresh starts. I'm actually not going to count it for myself just because I read it in December to come up with discussion questions. I'm kind of a rule follower, so I'm going to tell you later what I'm going to read for that one. But we did, as a group, read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Wonderful book, fantastic book if you hadn't had a chance to get to read it. It was like perfect to read in January with the fresh starts and just having a better mindset. In February, we read The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. This fulfilled the Afrofuturistic book. It was an interesting book. It was definitely not my favorite. I enjoyed a lot of parts of it, especially with the personification of the different boroughs, just like being a New Yorker and seeing that represented. But I also kind of struggled with it because it was kind of weird for me, and I like weird stuff, so I want to like it, but I'm just not quite there with totally liking it yet. In March, we decided to read for prompt number 32, which is a book whose title begins with Q, X, or Z, and we voted upon X by Iliasa Shabazz, and this also is co-written by Kekla Magoon. It was such a good book, and I love that she has these different stages of Malcolm X's life being produced as memoir. It explained a lot for me of the awakening of Malcolm X because I had already listened to it. Phenomenal read, and I cannot wait to add this one to my classroom. That covers what we've read so far. So for the remaining prompts, we are going to talk about prompt number 5, which is a dark academia book. We're going to read that in September. We're going to read prompt number 8, a book that has won the Women's Prize for Fiction. We'll read that in June because that's actually when the winner is announced each year for specifically the Women's Prize for Fiction. We're going to read number 13, A Locked Room Mystery, in October for something a little more spooky to line up with Halloween. We're going to read number 16, a book by an Indigenous author, in November to line up around Thanksgiving time. We're going to read number 19, a book that discusses body positivity, in July. In April, we're going to choose a genre hybrid for book number 21. In May, for prompt number 22, we're going to read a book that is set mostly or entirely outdoors. In December, we're going to complete prompt number 28, which is a magical realism book. In August, we're going to complete prompt number 29, which is a book set in multiple countries. So that covers what we're going to take care of for the PopSugar Reading Challenge Teachergram Takeover. So I don't know those titles yet, but those are the prompts that we're going to be working on together for that. So let's move on to what I kind of know. Prompt number 1 is a book that is published in 2021. I feel like this could be so many different options because we always want to get books that are new and get them out to our students as soon as possible. As of right now, I am going to use Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo, which actually comes out this month. I am just waiting for my pre-order to arrive when it is finally set for the publication date. It is a follow-up to King of Scars. It is the second of the duology for King of Scars, so it will continue to follow Nikolai and Nina's stories along with Zoya and Jenya and just keep on going with our Grisha grind. Prompt number 3, it was a book that has a diamond, spade, club, or heart on the cover, and I read The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I almost said Evelyn Hugo. I do that every time I talk about this book. This is by Stuart Turton. This is another book I still don't entirely know how I feel about it. I think I was really miffed by the ending. It just was unsatisfying. It was okay once you got into it and realized that it was like Clue, but I was just left wanting more at the ending, and I was just disappointed by it, I guess. So it was a 3-star rating for me. Prompt number 4 is a book by an author who shares your zodiac sign, and I chose Phil Stamper. I am a Taurus. We both are born in May. I actually just started listening to this today on Libro FM, and it is called As Far As You'll Take Me. I have no idea what it's about, so I'm going to read the summary to you. Okay, so Marty arrives in London with nothing but his oboe and some savings. He's excited to start his new life where he'll no longer be the closeted shy kid who slips under the radar and can explore his sexuality without his parents' disapproval. From the outside, it looks like a perfect fantasy. He's made new friends. He gets closer with a first ever boyfriend, and he's traveling Europe, but he can't keep up the facade. He hasn't spoken to his parents since he arrived. He's tearing through his savings. He's homesick, anxious. I listened to The Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper when it came out for Libro FM, and the narrator is the same narrator, which I'm kind of disappointed about because I didn't care for the narrator in this, but I'm also trying to use what I have at my disposal instead of purchasing more books, and it just happens to be that I have a Phil Stamper book on Libro FM again. So I hope that this one is better than The Gravity of Us, but I'm already annoyed by the narrator. I hate that, but I'm so picky about who is going to read the book to me. Prompt number 6 is a book that has a gem or mineral in the title, and I chose for that The Radium Girls. This is by Kate Moore. It says it is the dark side of America's shining women. I know that it has to do with them in the First World War with the radium dial factories and falling mysteriously ill, but that's really all I know about it. I know a couple people have read the YA version of it. I happen to have the adult one, so that's what I'm going to read and I'll go with to fulfill that prompt. For prompt number 7, it is a book where the main character works at your current job or your dream job. And I didn't really want to read anything about teaching. Like, I have all these education books that I could read, but I don't want to. So instead, I already have Commonwealth on my shelf. This is by Ann Patchett. I'm going to read this because one of the characters is a writer. I would love to be a writer if I could get my creative mojo back in some way, shape, or form. So I had this on my TBR for a long time too. I bought it when I was working at Barnes & Noble before I moved 4 years ago. So it's time to read it. For prompt number 9, it is a book with a family tree, and I'm going to read Far From the Tree. This is by Robin Benway. I know that this book was pretty popular at one point. I think I have it on my classroom shelf. It might even be checked out right now, so I have 2 copies of it. So in this book, there are 3 characters who were separated, I think when they were kids, maybe at birth, I'm not sure. One of the characters has a child and decides to give the child up for adoption, but then that kind of spirals this need to find their own biological siblings. For prompt number 10, it is a book that is a bestseller from the 1990s. Please don't ask me why I have this on my shelf. I think actually it was from my wedding shower where my mom did a whole literary theme and each table was a different book. So that's probably where it came from, and it's just been hanging around for a couple years. But I'm going to read Under the Tuscan Sun. This is by Frances Mays. I know nothing about it. I know it was a movie. That's about it. The protagonist is a writer. She's well known. She ends up buying a villa in the Tuscan countryside to fix up and live in, but she discovers more of just the life of Italy and learns more about herself. For prompt number 11, it is a book about forgetting, and I've talked about this a couple of times. I'm currently reading it right now, and that is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue by V.E. Schwab. In this story, Adeline Larue is set to be married, and she pretty much sells her soul to a dark shadow spirit devil-esque kind of creature who, in exchange for her soul, she is allowed to live free. But there's a catch, because there's always a catch. No one will remember her. after she leaves their site. So already in the beginning, she's adjusting to these new rules, this new lifestyle where she has to thrive by lying, but no one remembers who she is anyway. It's until she walks into a bookstore where she tries to steal a book and leaves, and Henry catches her and remembers who she is even after she's walked out the door. So hopefully that will be the end of the curse that she has, but I'm sure that it is going to get far worse for Addie Larue from there. Prompt number 12 is a book that you have seen on someone else's shelf, whether it was in a Zoom call or at their house. I'm going to kind of cheat this, I guess, a little bit. I don't think it's cheating because it came from my neighbor's bookshelf and I need to give it back to them. But I am going to read The Young World. This is by Chris Weitz. It is a dystopian book where teenagers are pretty much taking over New York City and they rule the world. So I am going to read this for that prompt. For prompt number 14, it is a book that takes place in a restaurant, and I chose for that one With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I have talked about this book a couple of times. I cannot say enough good stuff about it. It is just so well written, so relatable, so relevant. It is a amazing read. Absolutely everyone should pick it up and read anything by Elizabeth Acevedo. For prompt number 15, it was to read a book that has a black and white cover. And I recently finished Cast, The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. This was it was a beast. It was a beast of a book to finish. There is so much complexity within this. There's so much comparison to India's caste system and to the fact that the Nazis had their own caste system. I am still baffled by the fact that the Nuremberg laws were based off of our own laws in the South during the Jim Crow time. This book ate away at me while I was reading it, but I successfully finished it. For prompt number 17, it is to read a book that has the same title as a song, and I read The Way You Make Me Feel by Maureen Gu. This was not my favorite Maureen Gu book. She has definitely written other things. I believe in A Thing Called Love was one that I really enjoyed. I just hated the protagonist. Okay, I didn't hate. Hate's a very strong word. I strongly disliked the protagonist. I think you were supposed to dislike her, but she kind of comes around at the end, but it wasn't enough for me. This was lackluster and felt very forced, where I didn't feel like that when I read her other book. But I got it done and it's complete. Prompt number 18 is a book about a subject that you are passionate about, and I struggled to find something for this, but I finally had an idea, and I'm going to read Ziggy Stardust and Me. It is a true passion for me, the love that I have for David Bowie. So I am going to use this book because that is what I am passionate about, is his music and his style. Prompt 20 is a book that you would find on a Black Lives Matter reading list. It is something I bought, I think maybe last summer, and I just haven't gotten to it yet because I've dabbled in some other books, but I am finally going to get to it so I can watch the movie version, and that is Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. I've heard great things about it. I've heard great things about the movie. I just have not gotten to it yet. So this is on my list of things to accomplish this year in the PopSugar Reading Challenge. Prompt number 23 is another one that I am slightly cheating with. Please forgive me. My cover is different than other people's covers, but I have Dear Evan Hansen, and it is the novel. It is by a whole bunch of people, the creators of the show. I know that on other people's covers, it's his torso with the broken arm, which is why I was going to do this book, but we're gonna cheat it. Even though I have a different background, I'm still going with the fact that there are other covers out there that have the broken arm, so I'm going with it. I'm gonna cheat the system a little bit. I also have never listened to the music, and I have never seen the musical, so I'm hoping that this will be a really cool introduction to what it's all about. Prompt 24 was a book written by a Muslim American author, and I just recently finished reading Internment by Samira Ahmed. This was an amazing book. It was so good. It was like slightly dystopian enough while being very realistic enough. I really enjoyed the protagonist. I enjoyed the whole story. The ending had me like, whoa, I could not believe what happened. And I can't say anything because it'll give it away, but it was a wild ending. I knew that something was going to happen with a certain character, but I didn't know what. And when it happened, that's it. I'm done. I'm done talking about it. Phenomenal read. This is the only prompt that I am like still stuck on. It is prompt number 25, a book that was published anonymously. I could reread Pride and Prejudice for like the millionth time. I could read another Jane Austen book. I don't want to though. I'm trying, I guess, to find something that's been more modernly published. I know there's the Diary of the Oxygen Thief or whatever, but I'm not really interested in that either. So I'm struggling to find something that will fit this prompt and to fulfill it. If you have any suggestions, please send me a DM and comment or something, because I just don't know what I want to read for it and I'm stuck. Prompt number 26 is a book with an oxymoron in the title, and for that I chose The Lovely War by Julie Berry. This was a good book. I enjoyed the blend of a mythology with the historical fiction. It wasn't for me though. It it was very slow of a book, but I enjoyed the parts when we got back to the gods and goddess and their conversation and how this was like all a whole storytelling ploy on their part. But other than that, it just wasn't my favorite. We have now made it full circle back to prompt 27, which is a prompt about do-overs and fresh starts. For this, I am going to read The Death of Vivek Oji. I have heard many wonderful things about this book. I picked it up a couple months ago and I just haven't gotten into it yet. The cover is gorgeous. It looks like hair. From what I know about this book, it is about a character who has a lot of crisis going on, just not really sure where they belong, how they fit into this world, and trying to figure that out, but maybe not being successful at it. I have heard that the writing is beautiful in this book, so I'm looking forward to actually getting into it. Prompt number 30 is a book about a place that you would like to travel in 2021. I didn't have like a ton that I wanted to choose from. I have this random arc that I think was given to me by a friend. It is The Winter Guest by Pam Ginoff. It takes place in Poland. I believe it takes place during World War II. Yes, during Nazi occupation. And it is about some twins who are raising their three younger siblings. It's basically about their struggles as they find a Allied paratrooper who is still alive and they're hiding a Jew. It'll probably be a little dense, but my family is from Poland, so I guess if I had to pick a place to go visit, that would be a lovely place to go. Prompt number 31 is a book by a blogger, vlogger, online personality, YouTube star. I chose to do So You Want to Talk About Race. Amber told me she just recently finished reading this and said that it was so insightful, so well written. So I moved this up a little bit to make sure that I conquered this one a little bit faster compared to some of the other books that I have on my shelf. It talks a lot about racism in America and how can you help to confront those situations. You know, if someone tells a racist joke, how do you show them that that's not an acceptable way to speak about other human beings? For prompt number 33, it is a book that has three generations of family members. So like a grandparent, parent, and a child. And for that book, I chose Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This book was phenomenal. And I am hoping and praying that Angie Thomas and Nick Stone do a little bit more of like a one-on-one collaboration. I know they have the huge group collaboration going on, which like, that's awesome. I'm super excited about it. But there are some specific characters in here that I need to know if they have more in common, more of a relationship. Like if you've read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't, I'm just rambling at this point and I'm sorry. I mentioned this already, but for prompt number 34, I listened to The Awakening of Malcolm X by Iliasa Shabazz, and that was actually co-written with Tiffany D. Jackson. It was wonderful. It was so good. I wish that I had read X before I listened to it because of their seamless chronological like understanding between the two. You can still read it by itself, but I felt like I was almost missing out on some of the details here and there. other than that, it was a phenomenal listen to. It was so well done, and I really enjoyed the narrator. He brought a lot of personality and character to Malcolm X's words on paper. Prompt number 36 is a book that has less than 1,000 reviews on Amazon or Goodreads. So Ashley reached out to me and let me know that her friend Christina May Fong had written a book and it came out last month. So I saw the cover and immediately ordered it, but it's called Under the Lavender Moon. Look how gorgeous that book is. Isn't it a beautiful cover? Anyway, Ashley told me that she thought that it sounded very shadow and bone-like, and she thought I would be interested in it. So I picked up a copy. I don't know anything about it, but I'm really excited for her that she was able to get published. So here's to trying something new. Prompt number 36 is to read a book in a different format. I hate reading ebooks. I would so much rather have a physical copy of something in my hand. However, I do have Namesake from NetGalley on my phone still that I haven't finished yet, and I'm pretty sure today's its publication date. So I need to like work on finishing that so I can post a review. But I love the cover of it. I loved Fable, so I'm hoping that I will also really enjoy Namesake as well. Prompt number 37 is to read a book that you think your best friend would like. I have a lot of really great friends on here, and I know that you all love to buddy read with me, so I am going to make this happen this year. Elizabeth, we are gonna read Pride because we've talked about it 18,000 times, and it is just time. I know that you will love this because you are a Pride and Prejudice fan, and I know that I will love it because I am a Pride and Prejudice fan. We just need to actually find time to read it this summer. Let's read it this summer. Prompt number 38 is a book about art. I listened to Levin Olives on Libro FM, and even though it wasn't entirely about art, it was. The main character really enjoys art. She is an artist, and the other main character, Teo, is a filmmaker. So to me, that was art enough because I don't want to sit there and read something about like art history or art theology. So we're using Love and Olives as the book about art. It was a cute read. It was a meet cute. It was good. I don't really have much else to say. I mean, it was a nice change of pace to listen to it. Prompt 39, a book that everyone has read except for you. I'm finally going to get to it this month anyway because it's on my March TBR, but I'm finally going to read Illuminae. And this is by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I've talked about it a couple times. It's mixed media. I think I'm going to fly through it. I just have to do it. I also already ordered the second and third book, so I'm ready to go. Thank you, Allie, for the suggestion. Prompt number 40 is a book that has at least a 4-star rating or higher. And Caroline and I are actually going to buddy read this at the end of the month, and that is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I bought this for her as a present, and then she told me I had to buy another copy for myself so that we could buddy read it together. I really don't know a ton about this. I think it's a science fiction book. I hope it's some space shit. Book 1 of the Between Earth and Sky trilogy. Oh good, Caroline, we're in this for the long haul. There's 3 of them coming. I did not mention this at the beginning, but I am doing the advanced version of the PopSugar Reading Challenge, which means there are 10 additional prompts on top of the 40 that I've already gone over so far. So now I'm going to share with you the final 10 remaining prompts, which are kind of like lighter, I guess. They're more like, I don't want to say BS prompts, but kind of. So let's talk about them. Prompt number 41 is the longest book on your TBR. And at the time when I started making my to read list, this was the longest book on my TBR. And that goes to Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. It comes in at, hold please, 803 pages. I think it is still the longest book on my TBR. Yes, it is just barely the longest book on my TBR. So this was what I read. I was highly disappointed by it. It did not get good until the last 200 pages. That was when all the action happened, all the good stuff. I'm hoping, praying that the sequel to this is better, has more interesting stuff happen sooner, faster. It took a long time to get into this world, so now that I'm in it, I hope it will be better. Prompt number 42 is the shortest book on your TBR, and that happens to be Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I've heard so many lovely things about this book. I just bought the Beautiful Struggle memoir, which is for YA readers for my classroom. So I think it'll be really cool if I can read this and then read that and like have that connection to talk about with students when I book talk it. Sometimes though, the shortest books are the most powerful. Prompt number 43 is the book with the prettiest cover. And I had a hard time deciding. I have a lot of books that have really gorgeous covers, but that award goes to 5 Feet Apart. And this is by Rachel Lippincott with Mickey Daughtry and Tobias Iconis. I totally just goofed those up. I'm so sorry. But this cover is just stunning. I know that the characters in this book, one of them has a medical condition where she has to stay 6 feet apart from people. That sounds kind of familiar, huh? But she meets this boy and they decide it is safe enough to be 5 feet apart. Prompt number 44 is the book with the ugliest cover, and you already know what it is. A Court of Silver Flames. Even now, it still looks, it's like a dark, dark gray. Not this silver that it looks. It should be silver. It should be a much lighter silver, and then I would approve. But it's not. So this is a hideous cover to me. I hate it. I hate the new revamps. I wish that Nesta was a total badass on the cover of this, and she's not, so I'm disappointed by that, but it's fine, I guess. Prompt number 45. The book that has been on your TBR shelf the longest. This is going to be a bear, and I think I'm going to save it for the summer because there's a reason why it's been on my shelf for the longest amount of time, and that is The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. I have this book because I was interested in reading more about Teddy Roosevelt, and then apparently I lost that interest, so prompt number 46 is a book that you meant to read last year but didn't. It is something I started in December but just didn't finish it until this year, and that is Rebar by Jordan Afuyko. Wonderful read. I am so excited for the sequel to come out. This cover is gorgeous. The book is gorgeous. It was so well done, and I really enjoyed every part of it. Prompt number 47 is a book that you associate with a favorite person, place, or thing, and I decided I bought this at the conference that Kristen and I went to last March, and I haven't read it yet, but I associate it with her and the good time that we had at the conference. So I'm finally going to get around to Book Love by Penny Kittle. Prompt number 48 is a book chosen from your TBR at random. I'm just going to save that for whatever book I feel like at some point in time in the mood for. I'm like not going to pre-plan that one. That's just going to be come what may when it happens. Number 49, a did not finish from your TBR list. And that went to We Want to Do More Than Survive by Bettina Love. I enjoyed the book. I just had a hard time getting through it. So I stopped for a little bit and then came back to it and finally finished it this year. It was a good book. I just, for whatever reason at the time, was not in the headspace to conquer this. So I did not finish it and came back to it later and got it done. Finally, we're at the end. We are at the end, and we are at prompt number 50, which is a book that was a gift or borrowed from the library. I'm going with a book that was a gift. Kristen sent this to me. It is Sway. The author is Cat Spears. I had put this on my wish list because Allie shared the author biography, which is hysterical, all about how her master's in anthropology has helped to advance her bartending career. This is a book about grief and relationships, and it sounds like it's going to be really incredibly funny, so I'm super looking forward to reading this book. I just think it's going to be a good time with a lot of great thematic message to it. Finally, we are here. That was all 50. Really, it's 48 because there's 2 I'm still undecided about. But all the books that I'm considering so far for the PopSugar Reading Challenge, I may change my mind on some things, as I'm prone to do, but my goal is to try to clear out some of my shelf this year, so this is helping me kind of predetermine what I'm reading for what category to just get rid of some things to make room for some new things. that is all for this weekend's video. Thanks for stopping by and watching. I always appreciate it. I look forward to hearing your ideas and your thoughts about different books that you're reading, especially if you're reading anything that I am planning on reading. I will see you next Saturday. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe and be healthy.